When I was a guest on Dr. Michael Brown's nationally syndicated radio show, Line of Fire, in May 2013, our conversation focused on a chapter in my book, Jesus Uncensored, entitled The Ethnic Cleansing of Judaism in Medieval and Renaissance Art. In that chapter, I show that classical, medieval, and Renaissance artworks washed out all traces of Judaism in the persona of Jesus, his family, and followers, despite the fact that they were all dedicated practicing Jews throughout their lives. The Gospels of Luke 4:16 and Mark 1:21 tell us that Jesus prayed, taught, and read from the Torah as usual on the Sabbath. The process of totally Christianizing Jesus, his family, and inner circle in artworks placed an artificial wedge between Judaism and Christianity that remained in place for centuries. As late as the 19th century, a painting of Jesus and his family, Christ in the house of his parents, by British artist John Everett Millais, and another painting of the 12-year-old Jesus by German painter Max Liebermann, met with public uproar because the paintings were deemed too Jewish. In response to the critical condemnation, Liebermann repainted his young Jesus, rendering him blonde, with no indication of his Middle Eastern Semitic Jewish ethnicity. Liebermann took the Jew out of Jesus, which soothed and pleased the critics and the public. Surprisingly, that legacy of bristling at Jewish Jesus representations continues to the present day. Here's what a listener to Michael Brown's radio show said in response to my interview. Quote, "While I was in high school, a Catholic high school, we had a project to draw in class. I drew a picture of Jesus, but removed his golden locks and blue eyes and replaced them with a more Middle Eastern-looking man with thick hair. The teacher lost her mind. All this resulted in a trip to the dean's office, as if I offended her, the teacher. All I heard was, 'Why does it matter?' So I said, 'You tell me why it matters. I don't recall too many blonde-haired, blue-eyed people from that region of the world.'" End quote. In commentaries and descriptions of exhibits of artworks depicting Jesus, we never hear that these paintings, as magnificent as they are artistically, distort and falsify biblical history. Renaissance artists revolutionized art with the introduction of realism and naturalism over the earlier artificialism and primitivism. Unfortunately, though, naturalism and realism did not extend to who the figures were naturally and realistically in their actual lives. Art historians with whom I've spoken dismiss these criticisms as ignorance about the Renaissance style of contemporizing figures in paintings, dressing people in contemporary Renaissance attire and picturing them in Renaissance settings as Northern Europeans in skin tone and physical appearance. While it's true that this kind of historical distortion was commonplace in Renaissance painting, it does not explain the obliteration of Jesus and his family's true identities, or the pictorial conversion of Orthodox Jews into later-day Christians. Artists in other cultures have also represented Jesus in their own images, but they too erase Jesus' Jewish identity. In denying Jesus' true ethnicity, the contemporizing or fashioning Jesus in the image of various other cultures only serves to emphasize the illusion that Jesus was of a different ethnicity and religion than the others, the Jews. But of course they were all of the same Semitic tribe. For example, Bartolomé Esteban Murillo's 16th century painting, The Baptism of Christ, pictures John the Baptist baptizing Jesus, an act reporting in the Gospels of Matthew 3:13 to 17, Mark 1:9 to 11, and Luke 3:21 to 23. Curiously, Jesus and John are not dressed in Renaissance attire, but John is holding a crucifix staff, thus telling the viewer that this is a Christian event and a Christian conversion, and indeed many people believe that. The fact is that there was no Christianity at the time of this baptism, nor did John or Jesus have any intention or desire to launch a new religion. Neither Jesus nor John ever heard the word Christian. It does not appear in the Gospels, although the term Jew appears 82 times in the Gospels. Moreover, John only baptized Jews, purifying them with the ancient Jewish practice of baptism for the coming of the Jewish Messiah. Murillo's powerful image supports the false conclusion that Christianity was already present. Consider, too, that the cross was a hated symbol in the time of Jesus and John the Baptist, a reminder of the countless numbers of Jews who were brutally crucified by the Romans. Jesus and John would very likely cringe at the image of the cross in this depiction. The cross didn't become a Christian symbol until the 4th century Common Era, when it was introduced by the Emperor Constantine on his military banner and shields. And even then it was slow in catching on with the Christian populace, and that's no wonder, since they still cringed at that time at the sign of the cross. What has been overlooked by art historians and other apologists is that the pervasive distortions of biblical history in misrepresentations of Jesus, his family, and followers established a powerful foundation for anti-Semitism, that is, anti-Semitism by omission. In stripping away Jesus' Jewish identity, these paintings implanted the firm conviction that I have stated earlier, that Jesus was of a different ethnicity and religion than the others, the Jews. The conclusion was made even more explicit in paintings like The Tribute Money by 17th century artist Peter Paul Rubens and Albrecht Dürer's 16th century Christ Among the Doctors, both of which depict a blonde, ethereal Jesus in contrast to the dark, menacing, and ugly Jews, the others. If we were to restore the authentic ethnicity of Jesus and others, these paintings would be strikingly different, even while preserving the Renaissance style. Consider, for example, Michael Patcher's 15th century painting, The Betrothal of the Virgin, which depicts the betrothal, or as some say, the marriage ceremony of Mary and Joseph. Mary was a 13-year-old Jewish girl from a rural village in Nazareth. Her betrothal and marriage was to Joseph, a working-class Jewish carpenter originally from Bethlehem. After their marriage, they showed their dedication to Judaism by taking the arduous 7-day trip to Jerusalem every year to celebrate the Jewish holidays, particularly the Passover festival, as stated in Luke 2:41. In Patcher's painting, Mary and Joseph are Christians, with the marriage ceremony performed by a latter-day Christian high church official in a Christian setting. Mary and Joseph's Jewish identities are erased. Several other medieval and Renaissance paintings of the marriage also Christianized this Jewish marriage ceremony. Similar misrepresentations of other scenes and events are typical and routine for classical, medieval, and Renaissance artworks. In writing about this ethnic cleansing of Judaism in medieval and Renaissance art in Jesus Uncensored, I presented a what if that punctuates why Renaissance artists would not dare to paint a Jewish Jesus or even hint at his Jewish identity. Here's what I said. Imagine, let's say, if Renaissance painter Raphael presented his patron picturing Jesus in a synagogue with a Jewish prayer shawl, a talit, wearing tassels, tzitzit, donning phylacteries, tefillin, for morning prayer, and surrounded by other Jewish worshippers in similar Jewish attire, with Jesus shown affectionately kissing his beloved Torah. "Raphael, what have you given me?" the startled patron would surely ask. "Sir," Raphael would respond, "this is a painting of the authentic Jesus. That's what Jesus did every morning. Don't you want to experience the real Jesus?" The patron is unlikely to be impressed, and Raphael might then be swiftly turned over to the Inquisition. This what-if image is based on that description that I made earlier in Luke 4:16 and Mark 1:21 of Jesus in a synagogue on the Sabbath. In recognition of the power of imagery, it's time to counter these paintings with more authentic ones that tell the true story of who Jesus was. I've often wondered what many of the classical, medieval, and Renaissance artworks would look like if Jesus' ethnicity was restored. To answer this question, I've organized an art exhibit, putting Judaism back in the picture toward healing the Christian-Jewish divide. 8 talented artists have joined the exhibit. You can learn more about these artists, their artworks, and the exhibit at www.jewishjesusart.com. That's www.jewishjesusart.com. There you will also see some of the new renditions that put Judaism back in the picture to illustrate the two sides of the Jesus story: Jesus, the dedicated Jew, and Jesus, whose life and teachings inspired Christianity. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. Bernard Starr.